This video is as much about the process as it is the outcome. It's about how we get things made in Flask. Let's talk about the outcome first and then we'll start going through that process. So I've got the situation with these library laptops that I want to be able to issue students laptops to students. Sandra here already has a Chromebook. My problem is I can go into issue, I can select Sandra, I can give her another one. So she now has two out. That shouldn't be the case. What I would like to happen is that when I try to give Sandra another laptop, it checks, and if she already has one out, I get a message. So that's what we're going to achieve. In order to do that, we've got to do a few things. We've got to work out. We're going to have to go to the database. When we get to this point here, this is the point where the form has been submitted, and we're going to check in the database, does Sandra have a laptop currently? And then we are going to have to make that query work, and then we're going to have to, based on that query, decide on what we do next. So it's quite a lot of fiddling around. So we're going to have to do a query to go to the data. Let's do the query first. So I'm going to go in here, I'm going to go into create query design, and it's from the laptop issues table. And what I want to know about is students who have not returned their laptops. So the returned is going to be false in this database. It's not the same in my SQL database. I'll come to that in a moment. And let's just see if we've got someone. Yeah, student ID number 3 has a laptop which is not yet returned out. I don't need to see that field, so I can untick it. It's actually not very helpful. Sometimes you just remove that from the outcome list, but it's still part of the criteria. I'm also going to say unique values. So I'm only going to get a student come up once. It wouldn't make any difference in this case because you'd assume that no student could possibly have 2 laptops out anyway if this is working. But sometimes that's useful to be able to say, you know, if they've got 4 records the same, just show me one of them. So that should just work there. Now the other thing is when we do the query in our in the Flask application, we're actually going to know the student that we're wanting to check, and we want to know if they come up with 0 records or no records. So if I put in student number 1, we should get 0 records. If I put in student number 3, we get that 1 record. We know that from looking at this before. And we're going to have to do this dynamically. What I'm going to do for now is I'm just going to leave this as 3, because like, whatever. We're going to have to modify it back in the application. SQL view, and I would copy it, but I'm going to have to do some other copying and pasting first. So come back to that. So we need to do a query here, and of course, rather than redo all the querying code, I'm just going to copy and paste from down here and paste that in there and fix the indentation as we always have to do. Now let's go get that query because we need to start modifying it. Control C, back to here, and that's the query that's going to go. And then just do the usual fixing up stuff, which we always have to do. Now, what have we got here? We've got student ID equals 3. That's not what we want. We want to know the current student. Now, we know that we have to get that by doing it in this query with this ID. So let's just fix that up then. So I'm going to say we normally do vals equals, and then the value is this student. Oops. Only I could touch type. I'll watch what I was doing as I'm going along. So that value there is going to there, and then we just say use that. So that will work. And the other thing is, of course, that the database doesn't exactly match up. I don't have true and false in my MySQL database because there's no such thing, it seems. Instead, I'm going to say returned equals y and n is what I happen to do. You've probably done something different. So that will get a list of students. I should probably rename this, but I'm not going to bother. If you're doing like good coding, you'd make sure that that was a descriptive name so that when you come back to this in later times, it's not confusing. Now, I've got a query and it has been made, and now I can do something about that. So I could do an if statement probably. Now you could look this up and you could say, right, how do I check to see if this list is empty or not? The easiest thing, having looked it up myself, is to talk about the length of that array. So if the length of that array equals 0, well, that's fine. We just do what we're going to do anyway, because that student currently does not have a laptop issued to them. Sorted. But if they don't have a well, that else is in the wrong place, isn't it? I need to go in again. That's better to line up with that if there. So if we do have a number, so there's a record that has come from this list, then I need to do something different. So it could be return redirect to slash student not, but I'm making this up, student not valid. And maybe we'd be passing that a piece of information such as which the student was, student equals student, I don't know. No, that's not how it works, is it? You have to actually give it a value. Probably I'd do it in here. I'd say question mark student equals and put it on the end of, do it as a get, right? Student equals student. So we're passing that value to that page. Well, there's other ways to do it. That would work. I should just check this works, shouldn't I? I'm not going to make that page. I'm just going to say print not valid, and we'll see an error, but we'll also see the thing that we want. I'm going to actually do a print slash, go to home, just for testing purposes. You obviously do the whole job properly yourselves. Let's see how many errors I've written into my code, because we actually learn from the errors as well. So what have we got? We've got Sandra Fandra has got a Chromebook still. So if we go to issue another device to Sandra Fandra, we should go back to here. She hasn't got a new one issued to her. And if we look in this window here, it says not valid. And of course, what we should do, just as fully testing, and it is important to fully test everything, we should try and issue the laptop to Simon Smart, because he currently doesn't have one. Simon Smart, that still worked, and I got executed. Anyway, it worked, it seems. I must have got another print statement in there somewhere else. So this video was about the process, and it was about going into Access, understanding the differences between this query and what I actually need to have in here, and putting the values into the query, and also thinking about the flow through here. At what point do I know which student I'm trying to issue a laptop to? So what do I need in order to do in order to check whether that student actually exists, which was this whole, or whether that student already has a laptop issued to them, which was this whole bit here. I hope that's helpful.